If we are lucky in our lives, we come across artists who are always paying attention, whose vibrant paintings bring to life the world in a way we have never seen before. They see the everyday, the objects, food, and places that make up our lives, and they can make these things sublime. Through the artist, we get to see the truth about our own reality. We get to see the colours that we never normally see. One such artist is Ararat Tanarach. She is a talented painter and illustrator who uses colours to bring to life the things I cannot put into words, the emotions and dreams, longings and heartbreaks that so typify the crests and valleys of our lives. This is the world according to Ararat Tanarach. Marley has a great imagination for colour. She catches the things she sees in vibrant hues that are reflective of small moments in time. There is very little shading in her work, and as a result the colours pop vibrantly off the page. In simplifying the image, she can draw our attention to things we don't usually pay attention to. Her process reveals that shading can be just as much a distraction as anything else. When we look at the world, we tend to miss things. We get caught up in the rush of daily life, our daily routine, our habits, and in the process we pass by things we should stop and pay attention to. Marley is the kind of person who stops and pays attention. I've always felt like I'm creating my world when I'm painting, she writes, the world that I'd like it to be. To express it as art is kind of to connect my world to other people, to let them peek into my world. If there is a theme in Marley's works, it is the ideas of temptation, heartbreak, and the loss of innocence, contrasted against the vibrancy and beauty of the natural and built environment. There is great pain and suffering in her work, but there is also redemption and hope. A heart can break, she seems to suggest, but new cells can grow in its place. At times she accompanies her work with a poem or a small phrase. Her writing expands on themes in her art and is tinged with a raw, emotive energy that in itself is rare and speaks to someone who can truly see what is happening right in front of them. There is a sequence to her works, from heartbreak to nostalgia to redemption. It is a sequence we all go through. There is a sense that we must become strong enough to be independent, to love ourselves and to accept everything that we are. But first we are hit by nostalgia, harder than anything else that can come out at us. The black and white movie-tinted image of what our love represented, the faded photographs of back then, the montage sequence that plays at the end of every romantic comedy. I eat tahini every time I miss you, and now there is no more tahini in the jar. I went to the restaurant where we first met, sat in the same chair where we had our first chat. I read the book that I brought to you over and over, to just feel the same letters you read. I told my dad he'd love to meet you, but he won't get a chance to. I read the poem I wrote for you. Flowers blooming for myself. I'm waiting, I'm healing, but the flowers only bloom for the one who looks at them. On the idea of heartbreak, she writes, I told my story to the sea, hope the sound of the sea took it to you. I wrote about you to the sand, hope the waves crash the beach and wash it away. I placed my wounded body onto the ground, cold soil had touched my bones to the spine. My empty eyes flew away to the sky. I waited, I was begging for somebody to come and heal. Both her poetry and her paintings exist as if they have always been there. They are symbolic representations of things we all go through. They mirror the emotions of longing and loss, reflected through the symbols of nature and construction. She writes of flowers blooming for the one who looks at them, just like Thomas Gray wrote of how many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness on the desert air. The nostalgia and heartbreak quickly turns, as for all of us, into a kind of spitefulness and distance. When you first introduced me to tahini, I've known this will be my favourite food after my first bite. I love you like I love how tahini melts on the tongue with the softness of warm Turkish bread. It tasted like your kiss when you hold my face with your warm hands. And I realized that I hate you like I hate Turkish delight. It's too sweet and tasteless. The sweetness also poisoning my tooth like you were poisoning my life. We want to be everything the other person was not, and we want to be away from everything that they loved and represented. We avoid the same streets and we avoid the same food. We run towards the part of ourselves that were different to them, and we cling on to those parts while the memories start to fade. What doesn't fade, however, are the colours in our world. They remain through heartbreak and recovery, new love and new life. We get to keep the way we see the world. We get to keep the vibrancy. And that makes even the worst experiences bearable.